This is The Jump Around with Jim Rutledge and Pablo Iglesias, streaming live on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel.
And welcome in to the Jump Around 3.0. I'm Jim Rutledge alongside Pablo Iglesias. We are in the Everlight Solar studio. And we are excited. We'll get the show started off by saying this. We're going to be joined by the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers, Matt Lepay.
Yes, sir.
That's exciting, Pablo, in and of itself. So we're really thrilled for that. And Riley, thank you so much for getting that set up for us. Riley Yelk behind the glass. Pablo, big news. Wisconsin to open up the 2026 season against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field. And I want to get into that. But I was on my way in, I was thinking about John Tonje. And he's the former Badger that is competing at the NBA Combine. Maybe has played his way into a second-round pick. I don't know what that means. In the NBA, honestly, first-round picks aren't really guaranteed to have much of a career a la Johnny Davis. You know, there's just not... I mean, the NFL is a grown man's league.
Nikola Jokic, though, man.
Right. No,
he got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, and now he's the MVP.
He's not Jokic. Jokic
yes,
was an unknown
true.
from another country. Like, those are the stories.
How
of
do
the
you
unknowns.
know that?
But my point is, that proves it, though. I'm not saying Tonje won't be successful, but the odds are stacked against him. Wes Matthews turned something out as a pro. Like, you can do it, and it can work in his favor. Draymond Green, there are success stories. And I'm not even getting into that part of it about what he'll be as a pro. I don't see him having the overall skill set to be an elite pro. I do think he's a guy that if he gets the right system, right coach, who believes in what he could bring and understands that he is probably a high floor, low ceiling player, that a Pat Connaughton, not exactly the type, but since we're in Wisconsin and we're talking NBA basketball, a Pat Connaughton level player, where you're like, hey, this guy can give you something. And then you'll be mad that you overpaid him. But, yeah, that'd be good for Tonje. But that's what I see out of him. But the other part of it is, and we can get to that in a second, it's also strange because Wisconsin for so long, and I want to talk to Matt Lepay about this, Wisconsin was never a one-and-done school. And it isn't, but it is now with the transfer portal with A.J. Storr. Johnny Davis was not one-and-done, but he kind of had one great season and done. And then, obviously, Tonje this last time. And so it is kind of strange that the Badgers have become a little bit of a one-and-done. Storr obviously going to a different school, but their best player is one-and-done at Wisconsin. And that could be the case this year with Nick Boyd.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel necessarily it's a one-and... I get what you're saying.
It's 100% a one-and-done.
Well, but it's not like that they're freshman one-and-done Kentucky. That's just basketball in general. That is college
it's just weird. Wisconsin was never... I'm not ripping the Badgers for
I get what
I'm
you're
just
saying
that,
my fault.
That was never a thing. Like, we never saw a player... Like, Dekker, there was concerns, and obviously he was far from a one-and-done. But, like, there was this sort of... Like, Tyler Hero didn't come here because the Badgers were not going to develop someone... their pro game fast enough to be able to get out of and get into the league right away. So that's where it's just been a strange transition as part of the NIL portal that it's the and I'll ask Riley and Pablo, you can chime into it. My main question was, before we get into Tonje and what he could be as a pro, is like, do you feel the same attachment to these players that you felt towards Dekker and Frank when they go to the pros? Like, do you care? Are you invested at all if Tonje is a good pro?
Do I feel invested if Tonje is a good pro?
Or at least percentage-wise to like what it would have been. Like when it was even Johnny Davis here, but let's say Sam Dekker, Frank Kaminsky. I think Badger fans were pretty invested. Like, we want him. That's our guy. We're going to wrap our arms around him, and we want him to be a great pro in the NBA because we don't have any great pros in the NBA. Tonje, so like if that's 100%, what is it, 50? Mm-hmm. It was a great season. I'm not saying Tonje didn't mean a lot, but it's just a matter of like how much, and I'm asking like how much do you wrap your arms around him as a Badger fan?
Oh, I'd say 100%. I mean, I feel like because of the run that Wisconsin went. I mean, again, they didn't make it to the second weekend, but even compared to the other exits that they've had, it felt like that it was, the first round, the second round, not making it to the second weekend, whatever it was for Wisconsin. I would cling pretty tightly on John Tonje. I'm rooting for him. I mean, he's
it's
nice
not rooting
guy.
for. It's like how much do you feel like you can claim him?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say I'm with Pablo 100%. Like, he's our guy. Like, what did he do at Mizzou? What did he do at Colorado State? I don't think those schools or fan bases are really claiming him as their guy when he's in the NBA. Like,
so is AJ Storr your guy because he was the most successful here than anywhere else?
That's a good question, but
so
no,
like if you got to claim one, you got to.
This is like Russell Wilson, a wolf pack of Badgers, when he says that on his Sunday Night Football intro. Should we really be claiming
so
Russell
Tonje
Wilson?
reached his peak here, but the majority of his basketball growth came before here, and he clicked here in large part because of his health. Mm-hmm. This is where he was healthy. And I'm not saying Coach Gard isn't a big part of Tonje's development, but Tonje's an older player who is 23 now, right? Or has he turned 24?
Yeah,
he might be turning 24 this year.
I think he turned 24. Yeah, so he's 23.
He is 24 now.
Yeah, so he was 23, fully cooked. Like he's a grown-ass man. He's an adult. And so, again, I'm not saying Gard and none of those players had or those coaches had nothing to do with his success, but a lot of it had to do with just he was finally healthy. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you shouldn't claim him, but you got to admit there's just at least for me, there's a different feel of like a season with a guy as opposed to what Badger fans are used to forever. I don't feel like Russell is claimed. Like Badger fans claim Russell because Russell's really good and you wanted it. Now that Russell's kind of a dingus, and everyone's kind of like, I don't know. Like,
he's not ours anymore.
Well, no, it's just a matter of like he's not ours. It's just a matter of like, oh yeah, he played for the Badgers.
Yeah,
but like J.J. Watt, you wrap your arms around him, and other guys.
But he was Central.
But he was here 2 or 3.
Michigan.
Central. But he was Michigan. Here 2-3 years. Though.
Yeah. At least 2.
Yeah, it's not the transfer part. It's the matter that you were here, and he's a Wisconsin kid.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think part of it's too the moments that you had. Like John Tonje had so many moments.
What moments?
This year.
They lost. They won. They lose.
He scored the most points in
a loss. In a loss. What moment? You gonna hang a banner for scoring the most points in a loss?
No.
Go ask Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. Are they hanging a banner because they almost won that game?
Yeah, that's true.
He's an All-American.
That's not a moment.
People really connected with John Tonje in a different way than they did AJ Storr.
What do you have against John Tonje?
No, it's nothing against John. It's nothing against John Tonje. It's against fans. Like fans are claiming John Tonje because because Badgers don't have any guys in the NBA, so you don't have anyone to claim. Like you are like desperately clinging. I'm not blaming you for that.
Yeah.
But like it's more of and the AJ Storr thing. I get he went to a different school,
yes.
But like it's cherry picking now, and I'm just wondering where the cherry picking goes. Like in the NFL, you don't cherry pick like Aaron Rodgers is not going to be an all-time great Steeler if he ends up on Pittsburgh.
Chucky Hepburn?
Yeah, I would.
Wisconsin
Chucky
guy?
is more of a Badger to me than Tonje is, and that's not a knock against Tonje.
No.
But I have more invested success having seen 3 years and 3 years of moments from Chucky here at Wisconsin than Tonje. And I'm happy for both of them. It's just more like having the conversation because, again, going back to the Russell Wilson thing, he's kind of cherry-picked. Like Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, those are Badgers who are in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And those are Badgers. And some of those guys are from Wisconsin. Sam Dekker, Frank Kaminsky, Badgers. I'm not saying Tonje the 1 year. I'm not ripping him for it. I'm just saying part of the new NIL is that we all have to come to grips with like a Badger is going to be a 1 year guy a lot of times.
I think if anything for me, it's to look at it. This is a lot more concentrated area. There's not as many Bradley Braves that are on the league, but I think it's just the connection to it. Regardless, like was Riley said too, it's the moments and whether or not what your moment and Riley's moments are. They're different.
So is it the same? Is my question. Is it the same for Tonje as it was for Dekker or Kaminsky? That's where I feel like the line is different. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you. So if they're 100%, Tonje could be 80 or maybe it's 100. I'm just saying like. Is it the same? And I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. I'm just more asking as a fan.
I think it depends on the level of fan you are, I guess. Like if you're like a diehard, like big time, like you know everybody, you know everyone from start to finish, like you can name the roster from top to bottom. Like obviously those fans. I'm not saying the casuals shouldn't like be a fan of them, but I think it's just like really where,
I feel like
where
the
your heart
casuals
is.
are more of we'll just claim our guy. I think the diehards are like we love Tonje, but like. It would feel so much better, and again, it's never going to happen, but it would feel so much better as a fan if it's, gosh, who's a guy?
Carter.
Yeah.
Steven.
Carter Higginbottom.
Our Nolan Winter.
Yeah, Nolan.
Like, that feels more ownership to it.
John Blackwell. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, Blackwell would, like, if all things are equal, and Blackwell somehow decides to go to the NBA draft, and Tonje goes in, I feel like probably maybe rooting a little harder for Blackwell because he was like a Badger, or you just want whichever one that represent your school the best?
Yeah,
and fans are selfish, and I'm not ripping them for it.
Yeah, I'm not separating John Blackwell and John Tonje. Like, they're both Badgers. It's once a Badger, always a Badger, unless you're like AJ Storr and you go to a different school quickly and disavow Wisconsin. But I don't see why there has to be a level of support difference between a Sam Dekker, Frank Kaminsky, who are here 4 years, versus a John Tonje who was only here for 1.
I'm not saying there has to be a level. I'm just saying, like, just human nature. You had way more moments with those other guys.
That's true.
So I just think, and it's fine. I just think selfishly fan bases want to claim the guys that make them look good and ignore the guys that don't.
Exactly. That's the point of being a fan.
Yeah.
That's
all I wanted to get around to. Like, but again, I went to Florida Atlantic University. I am rooting for players who are going to be transient. It's just what it is. And so I rooted for Michigan. I'm always going to root for Michigan as long as Dusty May there, even though that was my coach. Like, I don't want Michigan to beat the Badgers, but I want Michigan to do well. And in the tournament, I want Michigan to go as far as they could go without knocking out the Badgers, as long as Dusty May is there. And then they had Vlad Golden last year. To tie it to this team, I am all in. Like, Nick Boyd, and if he somehow, I don't think he's an NBA player, but who knows? I didn't think Tonje was either. It was still to be determined if Tonje is an NBA player. But if Nick Boyd ends up as a pro, an NBA guy, like, that is my guy. I followed him from FAU to San Diego State. Now he's at Wisconsin. Like, that's exciting.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like the same thing of, again, I don't see as many Bradley Braves. I don't know if, like, because Brian Wardle, he has Marquette ties. He was on the Marquette team that went to the Final Four with Dwayne Wade, when they were part of that run. I'm not saying I'm, like, booing Brian Wardle, the head coach of the Bradley Braves in the Missouri Valley Conference, but also it's like, it's cool. It's awesome. Like, he was still part of, like, the Bradley run, but I don't know. I don't know if I get your tie, though, because Dusty brought a bunch of other guys. And well, hey, if Brian brings a bunch of, like, Bradley guys over to Marquette.
Bradley didn't go to the Final Four, man.
Okay. Well, you know what? You don't have to do this to me, man.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry I'm playing the hypothetical game.
But FAU was like UW White. But, like, FAU was like UW Whitewater going to the Final Four. Like, FAU's gym is, like, Whitewater has a better gym than FAU. Like, if Bradley had gone to the Final Four,
I guarantee. We'll go to Peoria, Illinois, and we'll have a time.
But I guarantee that if your coach got you to the Final Four, it's just like one of those things. And when you're at a school like that, at Bradley and FAU, you're just going to carry it. But we're going to get to the voice of Wisconsin Badgers coming up here in a second. Steinhoffel's biggest Memorial Day sale ever is happening right now. Save 10% off store-wide and get $50 instant cash back for every $499 you spend. Plus, buy a premium mattress and get a free premium delivery on everything. And take advantage of Steinhoffel's 60%, 0% financing. Plus, get amazing doorbusters. Steinhoffel's is Wisconsin's furniture and mattress leader. Shop in-store or online at steinhoffels.com. I have done that. Just had family over. They absolutely love the new couch that we got from Steinhoffel's. Matt Lepay, the voice of the Badgers, coming up next.
Steinhoffel's Memorial Day sale is on now. Save 10% off store-wide. Plus, get amazing deals like this Sealy mattress, any size, now $199. A desk, $449. A queen bed, priced at only $629. This sofa, now $799. And save up to $1,000 on patio furniture. Plus, take advantage of Steinhoffel's 18-month 0% financing. Steinhoffel's is Wisconsin's furniture and mattress leader. Shop in-store or online at steinhoffels.com.
Welcome back to the Jump Around. I'm Jim Rutledge alongside Pablo Iglesias, and we're thrilled to be joined by the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers, Matt Lepay. And Pablo, I'm going to admit this right in front of Matt Lepay. I'm a little nervous because we have a mutual connection, Evan Cohen, and Evan Cohen's kind of like my mentor. And Evan's going to watch this, and he's going to nitpick how I do the interview, and it's going to stress me out. So Matt, give me something about Evan that I can at least push back a little bit, that he wasn't always the great radio host that he is now, hosting mornings on ESPN here on ESPN Madison and across the country. Matt, thanks for joining us, and tell me tell me that Evan wasn't just born into being great.
Oh, gosh, I wish I could. Good to be on with you guys. Yeah, he's one of those. Through the years, there's a handful of guys who've gone through here or whatever, going, I think this person's going to be pretty good, and he was one of them. But you could tell him tonight that we all had a great dinner at the Tornado Club.
Okay, awesome.
So every time you go, take a picture.
Yep.
So tell him we had a great meal, and Tauscher picked up the tab, and just just embellish it as much as you want. But if you say Tornado Club, he will be a very envious human being.
That is very true.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, we were just talking a little bit about too, pretty much into the weeds of John Tonje and what he means to the Badgers. What do you think? Like John Tonje, if he goes into the league, like how would you define him? Like, do you think Badger fans are going to cling on to him?
Yes. I've had more Badger fans come up to me, particularly from the Arizona game on, but especially as he's averaging close to 20 points a game. Ah, what a great guy, John Tonje. And to his credit, he's a good dude. He says all the right things. He averaged 19.6 points a game. So of course you're going to claim him. Cameron Hunter, good enough guy. He was hurt off and on, was sick, didn't play a whole lot. Xavier Amos, pretty good guy. In spurts, showed some promise, but John Tonje, he's total Badger. So yeah, that's how it works, and that's okay. And again, to Tonje's credit, he handled all of this so well. I mean, he was so much better than what I think the coaching staff thought he would be. They brought him here for a reason. They thought he could be pretty good, but he was better than they thought. And how he handled all of that, I still think, and maybe I'm a naive person, which I shouldn't be at my age, but I think a lot of Badger fans, maybe more than not, it still matters what kind of person you are. In some, there's the old line, the better you are, the more you put up with your stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. But there isn't really any stupid stuff with John Tonje. Really good player, did everything the right way, and I think that resonates with fans. As much as you want to see them win championships and make deep tournament runs, Badger fans still, by and large, not unanimously, but by and large, they want to be proud of their athletes, men and women, how they handle their business in and out of the athletic arena. It might sound corny, but I still think it's true.
I don't disagree with you on that. And actually, one of the players that we kind of got in this conversation because I'm a Florida Atlantic University alum, and my guys have been spread out all over the league, all over the college basketballs. One at Arkansas and Davis, and then obviously Michigan with Golden and Dusty May, and then Elijah Martin with Florida. But the one that matters for Badger fans is Nick Boyd coming in. And the voice of the FAU Owls, Ken Levicka, who spent some time here in Madison, he's a friend of mine, and he said that Nick Boyd is probably, the way you described Tonje, I think is what Badger fans are going to get out of Nick Boyd. I don't know if the same level of play, but he does bring maturity, and I think older players help, Matt, but also he seems to bring a level of good guy on and off the court that could be a leader instantly. Have you had much interactions with Nick Boyd, and what do you feel about his coming to Wisconsin?
I have not yet. Look forward to getting to know him a little bit this summer when they start the workouts. But yeah, he's a guy who's played on the biggest stage too, right?
Yep.
In the Final Four, and this is where a lot of credit really goes to Greg Gard and his staff. I mean, yes, you are trying to get the best players possible that fits within a budget of the NIL, obviously, but they have said over and over, and I think it's more than just words. You want fits. You want people who fit into the locker room, and I caught your last segment because I think the fan opinion of John Tonje is going to be sky high, AJ Storr, maybe more mid-level. But during the year, people loved AJ Storr. He was a reason people would go to the Kohl Center or consume the game however they did, if they listened, watched, whatever, because, like, what's he going to do tonight? How many highlight dunks is he going to get us tonight? And his teammates had really good things to say about it. Now, you have external factors, and obviously it's a more transactional sport now than ever in college basketball. But it seemed like within the confines of the locker room, he fit in pretty well. So with all of this, with Greg and his staff, that stuff still matters as much as Greg and his guys have evolved. Not just with the players they recruit, but the style of play and all of that. The level of jerk is still pretty small, pretty low with Wisconsin basketball, and I think that's an important factor with these guys being pretty good more often than not.
Talking with the voice of the Badgers, Matt Lepay. Matt, you mentioned John Tonje was exciting to watch. If it's still early for Gard and his team right now, and all these guys. But I mean, whether it's John Blackwell and the ascension that he could have this season, are there players on your short list right now that you feel like, man, these are going to be guys that people want to come to the Kohl Center and see come next season?
Well, yeah, that's what summer workouts and all of that. Certainly with Blackwell and Nolan Winter. I know John's still compiling the information on all of that, but if assuming he's back here, certainly. I mean, he averaged 15 a game, and he made a jump. And he didn't shoot it from three nearly as well as I think he's capable. So I think people will look at him and say, look, you've got something here. But that's the great unknown. This time last summer or this time last May, we didn't know what to expect from John Tonje. We're thinking, is he going to be the reason that, the primary reason that people tune in? Is he going to be the team's leading scorer? So, if it's Rapp, if it's Andrew Rohde, if it's, maybe one of the freshmen coming in, there's an unknown. And I think these summer workouts now, these last few years, they're more important than ever, where these guys get a chance to be around each other, get some work in, get to know each other off the floor. So I've given you a long answer, and basically, I don't know. I don't. That's part of the fun, because if you're going to assume, which is dangerous, but if you're going to assume anything, you assume that Gard and his guys will figure it out, and the players will figure it out. And maybe one night it's Boyd, maybe one night it's Nolan, maybe one night it's somebody else, and that's okay too. That could just make this team more dangerous.
Gard and the Badger basketball program has kind of earned the benefit of the doubt now. They've figured out the transfer portal. I mean, AJ Storr was good when he was here. They obviously Tonje. They've brought in players who have been successful. They fit the program, and their time here was useful. And also bringing in Kirk Penny, helping to modernize the offense. And now football, as we transition, Coach Fickell has changed, I think, a little bit in how they've recruited this last, especially with the portal, gotten some bigger guys, maybe got some guys to help you beat the Minnesotas, Nebraskas, and Iowas, in addition to trying to compete with Oregon, and then also bringing in Jeff Grimes. So, Matt, I'll ask you, do you see a possibility here? Because I do see some parallels to what Gard was able to do with Penny and figuring out the portal and figuring out the right guys for Wisconsin. I think Fickell could be on the right track here with the new players brought in and Jeff Grimes specifically getting back to some sort of blend of what Badger football looked like in the past.
Yeah, if you watched them in the spring, at least in terms of the structure, you saw a lot of things with their offense of what they did with the really good offenses that Paul Christ had as a coordinator and as a head coach, pre-snap motion, just going to get a defense flowing one way and go the other with the football and put a lot on the plate to the offensive line. Now, the question there is the left tackle, Kevin Haywood, gets hurt in early April. There's still, how do you address that? What are you going to do at left tackle? Right guard, where are you with that? And are you able to develop depth? But yes, I think for fans who didn't go to the showcase, or if you just paid a little bit of attention in the spring, when you start to watch this team in August and in September, I think schematically there will be some similarities. Now, the question is, no matter what you're running, do you have the dudes to execute it? And how good are these running backs? We don't know yet. We think Darion Dupree could be really good. His ball skills, the versatility, he can catch the ball really well. He can run it. Dylan Jones could be that maybe breakaway kind of guy. Cade Yakimelli, I think he's certainly earned the right to be looked at to get into the rotation absolutely. A little bit more. So how good is Jaden Ballard? I thought he started to find his groove a little bit as spring practices were progressing, the transfer from Ohio State. I think they've made upgrades. I think the quarterbacks are better between Billy Edwards, certainly with Billy, with some experience, albeit with a bad team last year at Maryland. But despite that, he put up some pretty impressive numbers. He's tough, good leadership capabilities. O'Neal, started last year at San Diego State. So, and with the defense, as much as everything's changing in college athletics, I was talking to our guy Tarek last night. We were at
nice.
a fundraiser, and him. I mean, he's still. Yeah. I think he'd like to still play. But we were both going. As much as the game's changed, it's still run the ball, stop the run. And this team couldn't stop the run, especially the last 5 games of the season. Like Nebraska couldn't run it, but it did against Wisconsin, and we all know what happened with Iowa and certainly with Minnesota. So they've tried to beef that up. They're bigger, they're stronger. We'll see how much better they are, but I think they feel like they have more depth there, that they can rotate and feel pretty good about the guys they're rotating into their defensive line.
Matt, you talked about kind of like getting into your groove, figuring out who you are, or going back to your roots. It kind of feels like with Jeff Grimes, although he has had some good passing schemes, it feels like that Wisconsin is kind of getting more closer back to that RBU. First off, I mean, Wisconsin's got to be RBU for you, right? Like they have to be, right?
Anybody who played running back would tell you that. Joe Thomas would say O-line you.
True.
Any
Yeah.
linebacker
True.
would say linebacker you. But yeah, I think when you talk to people outside of the Wisconsin area, the fan base, when they think about the Badgers, I mean, it goes back deeper than this, but certainly, Ron Dane, but you go back to Brent Moss, Terrell Fletcher, go back to Billy Merrick, Rufus Ferguson, those guys, but Melvin Gordon, James White, John Clay, Monte Ball, on and on it goes. That's the question. How good are these guys going to be? I think there's pretty impressive skill set with Jones, Dupree, and with Yakimelli, but I think you still need to see it happen. And you can't play it. I don't know if you could play the way Barry did. You didn't want to throw the ball more than 10 or 12 times. He joked about that, and he had teams that could throw it more than that. But they are trying to get more versatile. Yes, you have to run the ball, but you've got to do more to keep defenses honest as well. And I would also say this. I mentioned Barry. Don't get confused. I think if Barry was in his coaching prime right now, he would adjust to this.
Yes.
I don't know if he would love it, but he would adjust. He would be pounding the pavement, trying to raise what you need to raise and with the NIL and all of that. And I think he would handle this a heck of a lot better than some people might be led to believe.
Oh, I have no doubt. Just the stories I heard about what Barry did to, establish booster clubs and establish fundraising for Wisconsin when they were trying to keep up with the Joneses with facilities. Barry was on top of that, and he understood the importance of it. And actually, that transitions into Matt. You've been around. You've seen Barry. You've seen Brett. You've seen obviously Luke. Now there's been some coaches in between, and I think fans sometimes forget, in 2008, the Badgers were 7-6. Barry had some dips in there, and so it's not always, sunshine and rainbows at Wisconsin. And the difference was what Barry had no expectations coming in. And then once he turned it around, he was kind of set. And then Brett hit the ground running. There's a case to be made that Fickell can turn this thing around, and that a down little turn here for Badger football for a couple of years can be not written off, because I think Coach Fickell is invested in making the team better, but impossible schedule and injuries at the worst position to have an injury at when you run this type of offense. So I guess kind of soothe Badger fans as someone who's seen the eras that not every year was 10 wins and a bowl win, that Badger football can bounce back quickly.
That's where it helps to be old, as I am, being around this for 37 years. And I would say with Barry, I think people, those who have a certain age know this, but we're talking a generation ago now. When Barry started here, it was pretty much ground zero. He had to get the fan base to care, and not just outside of Madison, within Madison. And those guys worked so hard trying to get fans to re-engage with the program and boosters and all of that. But what he put in, words can't adequately describe it. And then when they won their Rose Bowls in the 90s, after they won their back-to-back, after the 98 and 99 seasons, they went through a 5-year stretch where in the Big Ten, they were 19-21 in Big Ten play. The last 5 years here, 3 with Paul and Paul/Jim, and then with Luke, they're 21-21. So that your point is a valid one, Jim. I mean, it isn't always be at or near the top. It isn't always playing in the Big Ten championship game. The challenge now, the more recent history, is that between 2010 and 2019, this team was really good. And in today's world of the college football playoff, they would have been a semi-regular. But that's a snapshot in the 130-some years of Wisconsin football. Yes, even Barry, a rightfully so, first ballot college football Hall of Famer, winningest coach ever here. There were years that were bumpy. He always said it's hard to win, and those weren't just words. I mean, I think here you always face an uphill battle against the blue bloods of the Big Ten, but they've gone through this before. Fickell has gone through 2 years as a coach that he's never gone through before, ever, as an assistant, as a head coach. So you know that this kind of stuff eats him alive, and his competitive nature, every waking moment that he has. I doubt that he sleeps a lot even in May, every waking moment. So how do we fix this? How do we make the step to get back to being in bowl games and then eventually get back in today's world being in contention for the playoff? That seems like a little reach right now, but this is a big year for these guys where they can prove a point to people that, hey, this is, we're still Wisconsin, and you're still capable of playing with the biggest of the big boys out there.
Pablo, before you ask your question, I would just like to point out to what Matt was saying about how the Badger football program needed to build itself. I grew up in the Milwaukee area in Cedarburg. I didn't know that the Badgers had a football team until I was 13 years old in 1993 when they went to the Rose Bowl. That's when I learned. I'm like, wait, what is going on? There's college football in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, that's how. I mean, obviously we grew up in a different part of the state, but it was so out of sight, out of mind. But then that season was like the biggest thing socially and around your friends and my parents' friends, and they gathered and watched the Rose Bowl and did the whole thing. It was insane how on the radar Badger football was before Barry finally got them there, and he had to go 10-1 and get to the Rose Bowl to really do it.
Yeah, it's actually funny too. When I was at dinner with my parents last week, so Matt, actually, I did have Tornado Room on the list for my birthday last week. I ended up going somewhere else. I didn't mention it to Evan Cohen. I knew he was going to rip me for it, so maybe we'll mention that on a different point. But yeah, no, same thing with Jim's point. It was I knew, actually, fun fact, like the first live story that I did here when I came to Madison as a reporter was Barry Alvarez retiring and getting to learn about his legacy in real time. But explaining to my parents the quote of "better get your tickets now before it's before it's too late," or I'm paraphrasing it, but we know. Well, ironically, I don't know the line off the top of my head, but we know the sentiment that he put out there. We know all that, so it's really cool to think about it. Just sharing that story and like, hey, this is the guy who made Wisconsin football what it is. But yeah, Matt, transitioning into that and talking about the guy who is the coach. You mentioned Luke Fickell a little bit. How have you seen him grow over these 2 years as the head coach? Getting to know him over these years.
Well, yeah. First off, he's a great dude. And I hope that more people in the community throughout the state can get to know him a little bit, and over time when he gets out a little bit more, because he is everything. When they hired him, I called my colleagues back in Ohio, a guy at Ohio State, their play-by-play announcer is a good friend of mine, Paul Keels, and the voice of the Cincinnati Bearcats, Dan Horde, who I don't know really well, but I said, okay, what are we getting here? And they painted a picture of him that was really good. It's like, you're going to really like working with them, and so on and so forth. And he has been all of that and then some. I think with anybody, though, who comes from the outside, and maybe this is the case at most universities, but I certainly know it's the case here, this is a little different. And I'm not saying that is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's different. And you're just kind of getting a lay of the land, and what are the battles worth fighting, and what are the battles that you maybe just you move on to next. And my guess is he's now 2 years in, has a much better feel for that, as opposed to when he first stepped on campus in late November, early December of 2022. So and I just think over the course of time, you develop relationships with coaches in the state of Wisconsin. Obviously, their footprint, as he's mentioned many times, there's a reach for the Wisconsin brand that goes out a little bit further than what he first thought. But at the same time, if you can get those guys a little closer to home, the Wisconsin guy who may only be a 3-star or a 2-star, but is living the dream for playing here, by playing here, that can make a difference as well. So I think he's, I think he owns some mistakes maybe that were made, schematically with the offense and all of that. So yes, I think he was already a pretty mature coach when he got here, but I think it's just a matter of getting acclimated to what can work at a place like the University of Wisconsin. I think we have seen some growth with him, and it has to, because of the schedule that they played last year, and one that this year is arguably even more difficult with some of these blue blood games being on the road, Michigan and Oregon to name two. And we'll see if Indiana puts together another year like it did last year. So the schedule, as we all know, didn't even say Alabama. The schedule, as we all know, is very challenging, daunting, however you want to describe it. But he wants guys who want to jump at the opportunity to play against a schedule like that.
And speaking of the schedule, and as a broadcaster, obviously you've had, with the Badgers, awesome moments, some stuff with the Brewers as well. Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Lambeau Field, Sunday. Like, it has to be, I think one of the things that people enjoy listening, and you can hear it in your voice, is that you are genuinely excited for all the different opportunities, just like a fan would be. So I guess talk about the excitement of being able to call another Wisconsin Notre Dame game and calling it Lambeau Field and on a Sunday and to kick off the season. Like, that's got to, as someone who's a fan and a broadcaster, just get you extra excited for those type of games.
Yeah, it does. I mean, when they played them at Soldier Field in 2021, and it was the first time I had seen Notre Dame in person, and there was enough nerd in me when they came out of the tunnel with the helmet. I thought, it's pretty good. I mean, This is the Irish. Yeah. It's Notre Dame, right? And the game for 3 quarters and 1 minute of the fourth was pretty good. And then the wheels fell off, and you can look it up if you don't know. But yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier today. In a perfect world with college football, maybe you play at South Bend one year and then you play at Camp Randall the next. But if you can't do that, where else would you rather be than Lambeau Field for this? And anybody who was there for the 2016 game against LSU, it was electric. And it'll be every bit of that, if not more, because the fan base it's technically a home game for Notre Dame, but there's going to be thousands of Notre Dame fans, thousands and thousands of Wisconsin fans, and when you get that kind of mix at a place like Lambeau Field, it's going to be, electric is an understatement. It just should be a spectacular night in Green Bay.
The voice of the Badgers, Matt Lepay here. Matt, I know you have just an ongoing resume of different games, different moments, all those things, especially in Badger history, of moments that you've called. But I got to ask you, what is an event or a game, whatever it is there that dream game or that dream scenario, that dream event that you're like, man, I would love to call this one day?
One that's still out there that I haven't?
One that's still out there that you haven't yet. One that's still out there that you haven't. Put you on the spot.
Well, I always said, like, with what are your favorite moments? I always like to say the best is yet to come. So I know in May of 2025, it sounds like a long ways out, but maybe before I'm done, Tausch and I be in the booth for a national championship game for Luke Fickell's Wisconsin Badgers.
There we go.
Not going to say I'm expecting that this year, but at some point, I mean, I never thought, the thought of seeing the basketball team go to the Final Four. It was stunning in 2000 to see them play, beat Kentucky, Dekker's shot, all of that. That was unbelievable. So when you get that, you're thinking, okay, what about a football atmosphere and the Rose Bowls? Well, I feel like I've checked a lot of boxes, with the opportunities I've had. But a national title game for football, that would be the ultimate.
Matt, before I let you go, I'll ask this one. I won't ask for a favorite, but if you just want to give us some of your favorite players, again, not one, but just a few that just were fun to be around, not even watch, just you enjoyed their company. So it could be a star, it could just be a player that you just enjoyed this, to talk with them and enjoy their presence. So I'll let you throw a few names out there. You don't have to pick just one.
Yeah, my early days here, Tracy Webster. A great point guard here. Still is the all-time leader in career assists. Scout for the Dallas Mavericks now, so we stay in touch a few times a year. He'll be scouting a game, so I get a chance to catch up with him. So going back to those days, the Trent Jackson was a lot of fun to get to know. Again, you're talking late '80s with guys like especially with guys like Trent. If I don't say Ben Brust, would he be hurt?
Yes,
yes, absolutely, 100%.
Ben Brust, one of the great characters. Still that lucky shot against Michigan that he made. So, but an even bigger shot he made against Oregon in the NCAA tournament in Milwaukee. The Final Four guys, Mike Kelly, Kowski, Vershaw, all those guys, who played for Dick Bennett and got to the Final Four. Maurice Linton. It's easy to say that with the best teams and then the 14, 15 teams. Zach Bohannon, Zebo, is always an interesting guy. He didn't
smart,
play a lot. Yeah, very smart guy, and had thoughts, had opinions about things, and it was just fun having casual conversations about stuff like that. So, Gosser, again, smart, very smart, very aware of his surroundings and all of that. So. But yeah, Brust was okay. He was. If we're talking basketball, the football guys, Corey Raymer. I don't know if you guys have any. Great center here, and part of the Rose Bowl team in '93. One of the writers in town was doing a story about nicknames. Like, I don't know if Corey had one. So the writer asked Corey, and he said, "Well, anything that starts with the word dumb." That'd be a good nickname for me. That's a bad example of his humor. He was a funny dude.
Yeah.
When Darrell Bevell had the touchdown run in the Rose Bowl, Raymer told us that he went up to some of the UCLA guys and said, "You just let the slowest quarterback in the country beat you to the on a foot race to the end zone."
Yeah.
Guys like that. James White, more recent years. Tolzien, Scotty, brilliant football mind and a really good quarterback. I think better than he gets credit for, at least in some circles. But it's a long list. It's a very long list. I've just scratched the surface.
So you mentioned Bevel, and I promise to let you on this one. Darrell Bevel's run to the Rose Bowl to the end zone is only matched in. They were going so slow that players just didn't know how to attack him. But it was, I think, Nate Tice in a blowout game for the Badgers had one of those too, where it was almost like you could play like the clown music because it was you had no idea how he got to the end zone,
like
but
the
he
Benny
did.
Hill theme.
Yeah, but he was moving so slow. I guess which player, Bevel or Tice, somehow moved slower because they both were running slow 40s.
Was that the game against Indiana where they broke 80?
I think that might have been a touchdown because why else was Nate in there? Yeah, it was a wild one. Yeah,
another great guy. Actually,
yes.
we exchanged on social today because the Athletic is doing this 25 best games of the 2000s, and the 2011 Big Ten championship game was left off. Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Nate mentioned that, and to me, that is still the best Badger football game. Wild, crazy.
Yes.
It just landed punches both teams during the course of the game, and Nate mentioned that and said, "Yeah, certainly hasn't been a Big Ten championship game that's measured up to that." I can't think. I mean, there've been great games, great moments, all of that, but that game just for the sheer drama. If you didn't care who won, you just wanted to watch a college football game, you would get sucked into that game in 2011.
Oh, without a doubt. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Matt Lepay, the voice of the Wisconsin Badgers.
Thanks, Matt.
Good to be on, guys. Take care.
All right, thank you. That was great. Good job, Riley, helping Riley Yauk, big Badger alum, Badger fan, and had the relationship with Matt Lepay to be able to book that interview. Pablo, great stuff. That was awesome to hear. We'll share a lot of that out on social media. So if you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on the ESPN Wisconsin app and watch back on ESPN Madison's YouTube. This has been the Jump Around 3.0.